Hello everybody, Corey here. Just a reminder that I am not a qualified, licensed investment or financial advisor, and basically I just gather the data and then try to present that to you so everybody, regardless of your background, can understand it. And to go over here quickly in the second half of this screen, we have the YieldMax ETF risks. Below it has all of the risks that they define on their website, so feel free to find that on their website. This video is going to actually be two things this week. It's going to be the weekly video and our initial review for distributions. We're using the same data. We might just talk a little bit more in depth about it and then go over it again, making sure everybody's on the same page and understanding. So if you've watched these before, I mean, there's going to be a couple of changes based on last month, but yeah, most of it's the same otherwise, but I'll still at least go over with that first one more in depth for those that have not seen it before, since we do have a lot of new subscribers since the last time. And I also just want to quickly look over last month, and I guess I'll do that now. My computer, I was making some changes and updates, and it's not now wanting to save. But so while it's doing that, and hopefully, I don't know, hopefully it'll save before I come back. But, which then reminds me, looking at the name of that, I did a YieldMax April estimate challenge last month, and I think we had about 5 people participate. So if y'all would like me to do that again, let me know, and we will do that again for May. And it's basically, in case you didn't see, it's basically so you could just submit your estimates on a spreadsheet that I put out there, and I'll put it, share it in the Discord, in the Retire on Dividends Discord, and then we communicate through a special thread within the YieldMax channel about about the contest or whatever, and as far as doing screenshots or whatever else we do this month. But yeah, so you'd need to be a part of the Retire on Dividends Discord, and then that's where you would access the spreadsheet to go out there and put your estimates on it. Now, again, this is for all of the YieldMax ETFs, so it'd be, say ETFs, all 19 of these single stock ETFs here. And then you would just put an estimate for all of them. However, they can't, be the same as any of the other participants' estimates. It can't be the same as any of our, fellow YouTubers. We have the Rod team, so it can't be the same as Rod or Max or any of my numbers. Like, you can't just take all of the lasts or all of the IVs or whatever. It can't be Gen Z investings, so it can't be any of our estimates that we put out. So you got to be your estimates, and you just use the information that you have, whichever videos you watch of all of us, and make your own decisions there. And then we just see who is the winner, which is basically you get a point for being the closest one to an ETF, and whoever gets basically the most points or is closest to them to the most wins. But just let me know if y'all would like for me to put that on again, if you'd like to participate, and if so, I will do that again. I thought it was fun. I thought it would be fun for others, and other people. Some of them said they enjoyed it because it made them really think about it and go through it and everything and look into these a little more. So, but anyway. So just to show you here, this is what, and then if you've already seen my spreadsheet, you know what's on it. Like we have in column C here, we have the last dividend distribution. This was for last month. This was last month's data, no. So understand that. And then column D was, okay, what was it based on the IV, on that last day? Not, looking at it every month, every day or week throughout the month, just that last one. And then we have column E is the short call premium received, and again, all of these are by share. And then column F is the short call net trades. And then we just had, for informational purposes, we also had how much they, received for the synthetic position. And then we also had an average column. We had averaged, I think we did IV and the short call premium and the short call net. I think that's what the average was. But in the end, you can tell by the color codes on here, these are the ones that were closest to the actual distribution. So you can see that the majority of these were either closest to the last dividend paid, or they were closest to the IV paid. Now you see one here for the short call premium. For Coney, it was 238, and I think it was 270 something. But it's also very similar to the IV there. Same thing down here with OARC. The short call net was 47, but we also had 46 on the last IV. But so using those first two columns, obviously the last distribution was the best, it got the closest, and then using the IV was the next best. Of course, it looks like we had 3 greens on the IV that didn't have any, wasn't even close, I guess, on the last. Yeah, anyway, just glance in there. And then over here, we did the percentages, the cents or the percentages that was closest to, the last distribution or the IV. So that's where these color codes over here come from, the green, the yellows, and reds. Like, yeah, they might have been closest to the distribution, but how close, right? So we see we had 5 greens and 4 yellows, and then we have 8, though, that were more than 10% away. For example, even looking at Murney here, it was 44% off. AIYY was 47% off. And that's just looking at the last distribution. But so just because it did the majority or, did the best doesn't mean it's the best. But in the case of what we are using to calculate here, it was the best overall, just not individually. And then if we were basing it on IV only, we had 3 greens, 3 yellows, and then the rest were red. So we have even one. NVIDIA here was 58% off. Of course, GUI was also 58% off. Just one was positive and one was negative. And then again, we had the short call premium, the short call net, and then the average. And then I played around. I'm like, okay, well, what if we use the average of the IV and distribution, since those were the closest, and that only got us 3 greens and 4 yellows. So that was not as good as either one of those. Same thing if we looked at the IV distribution. The IV, the last distribution and the premium. And I didn't change the number at the bottoms for these because I just did these earlier today or yesterday. So that was just 2 and 2 and whatever. So, and I probably did even more things last month that I have hidden there, but none of that. There wasn't a perfect method to this. And then what I did do this last month, but I don't think I showed this on the video. I think I did this after the fact. But anyway, this is based on the last dividend distribution and the IV only. And if I did the min and max based off of both of those two and looked at the distribution, it looks like 9 of them fell within the range of those. 4 were above it and 5 were below it. And the ones that, if this is the above or the below amount, right? So the ones that aren't red, you have 7 cents, 8 cents, 1, 2, 3, and 2. So they're not bad, but 3 of them, and I guess, these aren't percentages, I'm doing these as cents, but then we had those that were over 10 cents off. We had, 19, 16, and 58 cents. So then, just looking at this, it looked like the best thing is to look at that within that range, because like you see here, even if it wasn't within the range, with the exception of 3 of those, it was within 10 cents of the range. Yeah, so if you looked at the range plus or minus 10 cents, was that 16 of these? I'm trying to look at Misty here. Okay, we can't include Misty. So it has an NA there. So 9 and 9, yeah. So we only had 18 at the time. So 15 of these fell within there. Within the, being within that min and max range of the dividend and the IV, or plus or minus 10 cents. So it's really not, that's what I'm going to go with this month. Now, next month could be totally different, right? Because we've only done this fully tracking 1 month, fully looked at these numbers 1 month. So again, it could be totally different. I just wanted to give you an idea if you hadn't seen, what we did last month and what it looked like on the end, to give you an idea here. But I like the range here. It's just, like I said, looking at the 1 month, it does look pretty decent. So we're going to go back to the trades and holdings. And it looks like my spreadsheet over here is never going to update. Let's see, it wasn't that spreadsheet, it was this one. I accidentally did something and it pasted something I didn't want pasted, and it messed up the whole spreadsheet, and then I had to fix it, but now it's not wanting to save. Yeah, see that right there? Oh well, I'm beginning to think it's not going to sync. Which is bad news for me if it doesn't. But anyway, we are going to pull up our normal weekly tab and we'll go over that. The other tab basically just has, if we were looking at the prices of the underlying and the YieldMax, and seeing where we were to month and ranking them against the ETFs versus our weekly video, our weekly tab, or distributions, whatever, we're looking at just that one ETF and all the data on the screen. The other is where we rank them against each other. I was beginning to think that one wasn't gonna load, but okay. Just in case, those of you out there haven't seen this before, we'll just sort of start at the top. So for this one, we have the declaration, which is May 3rd, and that will be Friday. All right. Maybe it synced. I don't know what that was. I've never seen that before. But anyway, declaration date is May 3rd. I'm not sure where I'm going to be that day, as one of my daughters graduates from college Friday. So I'm not even sure where I'll be at, as far as if I'll be able to put it on YouTube or what I'll be doing. I don't know if I'll be driving that morning or what. But anyway, the ex-dividend is the 6th, which I'm guessing is 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's Monday. So if you're wanting, to get in for the distribution amount, that would have to be purchase it before 8 p.m. on Friday. And then, of course, if you want to buy it on the ex-dividend date, after it does the drop from the distribution amount, the pre-market hours open at 4 o'clock on Monday morning for you to be able to purchase it then. And then we have our outstanding shares here. Obviously, at the top we have our underlying, or we have our YieldMax ETF, and then we have the underlying. In the next row there, we have our outstanding shares, and then this is as of the holdings dated for tomorrow, for pre-market tomorrow. And so in this case, we have 2.4 million outstanding shares. And in the percentage, right beside it is our percentage increase from last month. So AIYY's outstanding shares have increased 8% since last month. And then start date, the start here, these are obviously the prices for each of the ETFs. And you can see it tells us here that this is as of the ex-dividend date. So after the drop and the opening amount for that morning for each of those. And then we have the current price, which in this case, it is a Wednesday. I don't know where I got that from. It is Sunday. And so this was as of close, 4 p.m. close on Friday. And then we have our two changes for row 5 and 6 here. So change obviously in dollars. So the change in the YieldMax ETF between the start and current price is $1.47, or it's an 11% down 11%. Same thing with AIYY. The same thing with the underlying AI. It is down $2.96 or 11%. Now, of course, these are rounded percentages. It's just most of the time it's easier to keep the percentages round. Of course, these both say 11%. However, the green one is the one is actually the better. So like this one could say, 10.5, and the other one could say 11.4. We don't really know since it has those roundings there. I don't know if y'all want me to put one extra decimal in there, so you can see the biggest difference between, if there is a big difference or not between them, just let me know. I can do that, no problem. I've just left it, like this. But if anybody ever wished for it to have another decimal to it, I would do that. And then as far as row 7, this is the ranking, which is sort of what I was talking about on our other tab. Hey, I guess it did sync. Thank goodness. We have rankings over here in this column. So basically, this is ranking all of the YieldMax ETFs against each other. And same thing over here. This is where we rank all of the underlying together. And so this over here is just returning that rank. And in this case, it ranks 16. AIYY ranks 16 to the YieldMax ETFs, and AI is ranking 16 to the underlying of the YieldMax ETFs. And then if we go down in our dark green cells there, rows 14 and 15. So these are out of all of the distributions that they have distributed. Their lowest was 40 cents, with the highest being $1.35. And then as the lowest yield was 29 cents, and the highest yield was 84%. And now that may or may not, correlate with that percentage, may not necessarily go with that distribution, right? It just depends on the stock price at the times when these were done and everything. But then, so that's just giving you the range of the last distributions, all of their last historical distributions. Row 6, last month's distribution, obviously, is going to be last month's distribution, or at least it should be, right? I just want to make sure it's looking up AIYY on the div, and it's returning column Y. So let me just make sure it's bringing me the right month. Yes, so it is bringing me the April distributions. I did change that. Alright. Alright, so we have the last month's distribution there, and then we have last month's yield, which in this case was 73 cents and 61% yield. Now, if we're looking at the implied volatility, and this is only as of now, what the 30-day implied volatility, or IV, is today. And then using that with the stock price, we're looking at 69 cents. Now, again, this is not, I'm not doing, I was going to go back and I'm going to do a lot of things, and I don't always have a lot of time to do things. But this is not me looking at every week the IV and what they would have possibly earned based on the stock price at that time, and then doing all the weeks or anything. It's not that. It's just as of today. It's simple. IV as of today. And then what would that range be on based on today's stock price? Or that yield be based on today's stock price? Man, I can't even talk tonight. What would the yield be based on that estimated distribution based off of the implied volatility? And of course, 30-day that I had there in parentheses. And then I have this, which we just talked about this a minute ago, but in rows 16 and 17, that black line is going around both of those rows, and that's just because last month these were the two rows, or these were the two items that the distributions were closest to. Again, we just had the conversation, but just wanted to show that there. And then I do still provide this other information, the short call premium received, for the for the contracts, for the option contracts that are done. And then the now 19 is just the short call. Well, not just, it is the short call, but it's all of the trades, right? It's the premium that they received when they sold the short calls, but then it's also the amount of money that it cost them to close those out. And they have to, for these single stock ETFs, they have to pay to close all of them out, whether it's 1 cent a share or $5 a share. They have to pay to close them out. Obviously, it's not going to be $5 unless they're way over the stock price or the strike price, but that's all trades. So that's the net of the short call trades. Then in row 20, we have these synthetic trades. So in this case, so I didn't mention it before, but 67 cents above for the short call premium received. The short call net trades is 32 cents, which means they had to pay out roughly 35 cents a share to close them out. And then for the synthetic trades, it's negative $5.38, which means they paid out they essentially paid out $5.38 per share, or the stock price. I guess another way to say it would be the stock price of AIYY lost $5.38 a share due to the synthetic trades. And I've talked a lot about this, so I know a lot of you don't want me to talk about it again. So if you want to know what happened with AIYY, just comment below, and I will fill you in, because I'm sure it's buried in some other video, because I talk about a lot of stuff in my videos and things can get buried and not everybody gets to hear all of it. But then to go here, we just have our total trades, right? So we have our short call premium. No, I'm sorry. We have our short call, all trades, and then we have the synthetic trades, which equals this. Because remember, this is just a breakout. But the distributions aren't paid based on premium, just the short call premium received. And you could clearly see that when we looked at the spreadsheet at the beginning, that only one, I think one of them was green on that list that got the closest. That was green, which means it was within 5 cents or 5%. I don't remember. I guess 5%. And then it had a red, which means it was the closest, but it was still more than 10% away, and everything else, they weren't the best option. And then, of course, in the percentages beside those, again, it's just a percentage. If you were just like you do the yield up there at the top. Okay, sorry, just looking down through here. And then down at the bottom, so the range, and the average. Last month, again, it was these three. And actually, I took it away altogether when we started doing weekly videos after that, and I updated a few things here. I took away this range altogether. But I did bring it back. Just based on, looking at that blue spot that we saw earlier, that I think half of them were within the range if we were just doing the range. So let's just back up. Yeah, so that blue area that we looked at was based on looking at a range just between the last month's distribution and the implied volatility. So that's what I did. I updated the range down here is my thing. As you can see, 69 and 69 and 73 and 73. So basically it's just putting them, lowest to largest there. And then doing an average based on those two, and then of course doing a yield based off of that. Because when we looked at the one earlier, that's exactly what we chose. I chose to do it since those were our two prominent ones that had that were closest to the distribution. And then we had, I believe it was 8 within the range, and then 5 was above or below, and then 4 was above or below. And then out of those that were above or below, which was 9 of them, all of them but 3 were within 10 cents. And then we had 3 that were over 10 cents away. So, again, only 1 month, but based on that 1 month, I've made some updates to this. So, anyway, that's just to give you a one over, and I know, I'm sorry, this will be a long video, but that's just to give you a one over to understand all of this here. And you'll see all this same data for all of the ETFs. I just won't read all of it. So please feel free to pause this or do your screenshot as we go through here, because I know you're not going to want me to read it all, and most people won't either, just because it's going to take a while and it makes the video longer, but you may want to take in this information. Now, also, if you don't want to look at all these ETFs, feel free to fast forward, to the ETF you want to see. This isn't a video that I don't create this or these videos so you watch the whole thing. I create it so you can get what you need out of it. If you don't need to watch but one of the ETFs, then please go to that ETF. Also, I should have said these things up front. I apologize. YouTube has this thing where you can fast forward, or not fast forward, but you can have these things speed up. And especially when I'm doing these things at night, I know that I may not speak as fast as I would normally do or could do during the day if I was doing something, or when I'm, I know, and I don't, if it's something I'm not doing every day all the time either, I just have to think about it a little bit more. But anyway, you can speed up. There's like 1.25, 1.5, 2. I'm slow, I guess. I can only listen at like 1.25 speed. But I know some others that say they can listen to 2 times speed, and man, more power to you. Y'all are gotta be some smart people. But anyway, so now we're going to move on and hopefully flow through these a little better and a little faster here. And do apologize because I will have to get a flow as I go through. So we have AMD here, outstanding shares. We have 6.25 million shares, which is a 7% increase from last month. If we look at our percentage change of these, AMD is down 13%, while AMD is down 14%. Therefore, AMD Y is doing better. However, both of these are ranking number 17. If we look at our distribution amounts down there, we can see historical distributions are 44 cents to $1.67. Last month was $1.11. If we were estimating based on implied volatility, it would, as of today, and today's IV in stock, we're looking at 81 cents a share. You can see the trades information there per share. If we look down at the bottom, we have the current estimate range. We have between 81 cents and $1.11. If we wanted an average on that, that's roughly 96 cents, which is a 66% yield. Now remember, before, our average really wasn't our best. It wasn't closest to the distributions. It was one or the other. But this is just, again, to give you an idea there. And also remember, when we did the thing, most of those were, were within the range, but some of them were outside the range, but within 10 cents, with the exception of 3 of them. Again, only 1 month. It's hard to really tell something from 1 month. But we will move on to the next. AMZ here, a little over 3 million in outstanding shares, which is a 10% increase from last month. As far as the overall change, both of these have decreased by 2%. However, AMZ is green, so it's a little better. In fact, AMZ ranks number 6 of the 19 YieldMax ETFs, and Amazon ranks 7. Our historical distribution is 37 to 70 cents, last month being the 70 cents, so the highest distribution amount. If we were looking at applied volatility, we would be looking at an 82 cent distribution. However, last month was their highest, and it was only 70. So just keep that in mind here. So we may be, looking a little bit more closer to last month if we are truly in that, higher range there. Also, one thing I didn't think about, but we're having a lot of implied volatility overall right now because we're right in the middle of earnings season, and we've had lots of things go up and down. So I didn't think about that before. I'll try to remember to mention it tomorrow night at the beginning if I remember. But these IVs are probably way higher than they have been the past few weeks. In fact, now that I say that, well, I guess they're not too much higher. Some of these are higher than others. I see AIYY is at 68%, so that one's higher. Meta's way lower. I can't see some of these because they're trying to low. MicroStrategy's going lower, which makes sense. Tesla's way lower. Okay, well, Netflix is way lower. So they're not all, the IVs aren't too bad on all of those. There were some that were a lot lower there, though. All right. If I remember, I'll mention the IVs tomorrow night, and I'll show that. I haven't shown it before because it was something I've been slowly building, because I was going to go back and look at some things, and I just haven't gotten around to it. So anyway, we were at, the 70 to 82 cent range. Of course, an average, if you want to look at that, is 76 cents. So if we move on to Apple here, we have almost 3.4 million outstanding shares, which is a 7% increase from last month. Both of these have gone down 1%, but it looks like Apple is a little bit better. In fact, it's ranking 4 in the underline, while Apple is ranking number 5. Historical distributions are 17 cents to 63 cents. Last month's distribution was 38 cents, and an estimate based off of the IV right now is 38 cents. I'm looking here. It shows a short call premium received is 30 cents, but net trades it's saying is 0. So that's interesting. So whatever they made, they lost. And then lost a little bit in synthetic there. Sorry. But anyway, so if we look at the bottom, obviously 38 cents is what we're looking at for because those are the same there. If we move on to Coney here, we have 17.2 million in outstanding shares, which is a 14% increase. If we look at our percentage change here, Coney has a negative 6% change, while Coin had a negative 9% change. So Coney is ranking 12, while Coin is ranking 14. Historical distributions range from $1.08 to $2.79, with $2.79 being last month's distribution and the highest distribution paid out. Right now, based off of IV, implied volatility, the estimated distribution would be $1.95. So if we look down there at an average between those two is $2.37 if you want to know the average. If we move on to Dizzo, we have 700,000 outstanding shares with a 22% increase from last month. Ooh, this just reminds me, I need to finish my YieldMax projects this week because I need to make sure I have the number of outstanding or the number of shares I need for the portfolios, so I make sure we get the dividend so we can review those and see how well those did versus the YieldMax actual distribution mid-month. Anyway, sorry, I don't know why I thought about that as I saw Dizzo. I guess it's because it's not something I normally buy, but since I'm doing those YieldMax projects portfolios, I'm actually buying them now. But anyway, man, I hope I remember this tomorrow. If somebody listen to this right now, put a comment below that I need to buy my YieldMax project shares so that way I'll remember. But going in here, okay, so as far as the change for both of these, they're both down 5%. Apparently Dizzo is a little better because it's green and they both rank number 11. If we look at distributions, we have historical distributions of 26 to 77 cents. Last month was 68 cents. Excuse me. And if we look at do an estimate based off the implied volatility, we're looking at 57 cents. If you want an average of those two, it is 62 cents below. And then we have Phoebe here, a little over 3 million outstanding shares, which is a 7% increase from last month. As you can see, Phoebe was down 13%, while Meta was down 14%. So Phoebe did better, and they both rank number 18. So we haven't seen 19 yet. Which one do we think is going to be 19? I bet it's MicroStrategy or Misty. Of course, I might have seen it earlier, but I don't remember which one it was. But anyway, historical distributions have been 28 cents, with the highest being 118. And last month was 117, but I know the last 3 months was like, I remember seeing it was weird. It was like 117 to 118 for the last 3 months. Of course, they just had major losses though due to their due to earnings. So we will see if you want to average between those. That is an 87-cent average. And then we have GUI here. It has 1.8 million in outstanding shares with a 6% increase. As far as the price change, GUI is up 7%, while Alphabet is up 12%. And that's because they've been doing better on earnings, so they have been going up. Both of these are ranking 1%. I mean 1%. Their rank is number one over both the underlying and the YieldMax ETFs. Previous distributions are 23 and 42 cents, with last month being 31 cents. Based off the current IV, the estimated distribution would be 56 cents, but keep in mind that if that was, well, the highest distribution is 42, so, how realistic that 56 is, I'm not sure, but they have done better, and they're actually one of the few. I don't even know if we have another one, but there might be one, Zomo maybe. But this one's actually up, and as you've seen so far, most of these ETFs and the underlyings are down. So we will see. Maybe they'll pay a higher distribution. I don't know. There were, let's see, when did they report? They might have reported last week, which now I remember I was supposed to do the earnings update video. Sorry, my mom came up yesterday, and then today I was trying to do yard stuff, which didn't really work out, and then I couldn't do videos until my husband went to work and my daughter went to sleep. All right. So many things for me to keep track of. Clearly not doing a great job of that right now. But, where was I? There. So the average of those two, and actually there's an issue here because this one is including the short call premium, and it's not supposed to be. Alright, I apologize for that. Apparently I did not change the formula in that sale. I did go back and check as I changed the formulas, and it did not affect any of the ones that we'd already looked at already. The average was still the same regardless. The minimum was good. It was just the maximum number. Alright, so, but our average between the 31 and 56 is 44 cents if you want to see the average. Let's move on to JPMO and JPM. We have 750,000 outstanding shares, which is a 25% increase from last month. If I remember, this one went down. Man, I can't remember. This one went down with the earnings, I do believe. And then it's bugging me because I hate for you to tell you if it went down or didn't, and I can't even remember for sure. This was the first one to report earnings, and it was the Friday before last. So that was April. Yes, okay. JPMO did go down. At least the next day it was down 5%. Or I guess the ETF was down 5%. The stock itself was down 6.5%. But we can see here that JPM is down 8% and ranking 8 in the underlying, which is better than JPMO, which is down 8% now, ranking 13 with the YieldMax ETFs. Excuse me. JPMO, I know you're probably sitting there thinking, well, why is there such a big difference? But I do know off the top of my head by covering these every day that last Friday, they're they were already at the max strike price for the whole next week. So this last week, they were already above the strike price, and it stayed that way for the entire week for their short call. So without actually going back and looking and trying to see what happened every single day, I don't know, but I do know that one because I thought it was odd that it was above its strike price before we even got into the week that it expired, and it had three short calls on top of that, and they were all it was above all of those strike prices. But anyway, we'll move down. JPMO's distribution history is between 20 and 65 cents, and you can see last month it paid the 65 cents. If we looked at implied volatility, we can see that the estimated distribution based on that is 34 cents. The average of those two is 49 cents. And you can see below, after I was just talking about them losing, their short calls for this time period, for this pay period, they've lost quite a bit on their short call trades because they brought in a premium of 63 cents, but they've lost 61 cents a share. So basically twice as much. They've lost twice as much as the premium they brought in. But we'll move on to Murny with 1.3 million outstanding shares, which is an 8% increase. Both of these have gone up 5%, with Moderna appearing to be a little better, but they're both ranking number 2. Murny's distribution has been anywhere from 41 cents to $2.65. Last month's distribution was 78 cents. And if we looked at based on implied volatility, distribution would be 99 cents. An average of those two would be 89 cents. If we move on to MSFO, we almost have 2.4 million outstanding shares, which is a 6% increase from last month. MSFO is down 3% and ranking number 9. With the ETFs, and it's doing better than its underlying, which is down 4% and ranking number 10 with the underlying. Historical distributions are 28 to 78 cents. Last month was 73 cents. Right now, they're looking at, based on the IV, estimated distribution of 63 cents, and the average of those two would be 68 cents. Misty, 3.1 million in outstanding shares, which is a 46% increase. Misty has dropped 19 cents, and MicroStrategy has dropped 24%. Both of these rank 19, which is last place of the YieldMax ETFs. They've only had one distribution. So their low and high is exactly the same at $4.13. If we look at implied volatility or distribution estimate based on implied volatility, it would be $3.14. Of course, they've lost a lot of money here because of these synthetic trades and them closing out. When it was closing out of the trades, or the synthetic trades expired, and them closing out way below the strike prices, which cost roughly $11.50 a share at the time, which is why the stock price went from roughly $40 to $30. Of course, it's come up a little bit since then. If you look at an average between those $2 amounts, it's $3.64. But yeah, I don't know. We will see. I would say it's not going to be, you're going to be lucky if it's at that 30-day IV range. And if we move over to Netflix, 6.4 million outstanding shares with a 0% increase, but it is green, so it did go up a little bit. And then we have, as far as the share price here, the Netflix is down 8%, while Netflix is down 11%. And they did also, they're the ones that dropped after earnings that I have down here. In fact, Netflix dropped the day after earnings 9%, while the ETF dropped 6.6%. So that's significant here. They are ranking 15 of the 19 ETFs. Distribution history here, 42 cents to $1.26. Last month was 81 cents. And if we were looking at the implied volatility, we're looking at 40 cents, which is 29%. Yeah, I guess because of the bad earnings. But if we look at the average of these two prices, the 40 and 81 cents, it's an average of 60 cents. NVIDIA has just shy of 17 million shares, and it's a 24% increase from last month. As far as our change goes, NVIDIA has gone down 3%, while NVIDIA has gone down 4%. So NVIDIA is doing better and is ranking number 9 with the underlying, while NVIDIA is ranking 10 with the YieldMax ETFs. The distributions here have ranged 42 cents to $2.62. Last month's distribution was $2.61. Based off the implied volatility here, we're looking at $1.35. And an average between those two would be $1.98. If we move on to OARC here, we're just shy of 6 million outstanding shares with an increase of 7%. OARC is down 8%, which is better than ARC, but ranks number 14, while ARC is down 9%. It's ranking 13 for the underlying. Distributions range from 24 cents to $1.09. Last month's distribution was 48 cents. The implied volatility currently is distribution estimate is 36 cents, and an average of those two would be 42 cents. We have PayPay at 850,000 shares, which is an increase of 10%. PayPal has decreased a very tiny amount. You can see 3 cents. And then PayPay has increased 2%. So both of these rank number 3. As far as historical distributions go for PayPay, we have 47 to 72 cents. Last month's distribution was the lowest distribution with 47 cents. Right now, based on implied volatility, the estimated distribution is 78 cents. Keep in mind that is 6 cents above the highest distribution amount. The average between these two is 62 cents. If we move on to SQUE, we're at 1.3 million outstanding shares with possibly a slight increase due to the green percentage sign, or the green percent there. 0%, there we go. We look at the change here. SQUE has gone down 3%, while Block has gone down 6%. So SQUE is ranking number 8 with the YieldMax ETFs, while Block is ranking number 12 with the underlying. Historical distributions range between 38 cents and $2.15. Last month's distribution was 64 cents, with the implied volatility right now, average estimate would be $1.23 a share. Yeah, that's I didn't realize, I guess, that it makes me wonder what was the IV on this before. So squee, I passed it, didn't I? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's increased. I know I don't have, let's see. If we go to squee here, of course I can't go over anymore. It's awesome. Force it. We can see since before the last distribution, they were ranging 30%, and then the last 4 weeks were around 50%. So it has been, for all 4 weeks, it has been higher there. All right. All right. So maybe. Of course, this is saying right now we're at 65. Our yield is currently 65% versus around 50. And that's yeah, and this is as of today, which I guess is not the same as what it was Friday. All right, sorry about that. I just wanting to double check a few things, as we see things here. So the average between those two, the $1.23 and 64, is 93. If we look at Tesla here, we have 45.3 million outstanding shares. This is the first one I've ever, well, I'm not going to say ever, but it's the first one today that I've seen. Let's go over. Yep. The only one that I've seen today actually have a negative outstanding shares. If we look at the stock itself, Tesla was up 2 cents, while Tesla is down 1%. So Tesla's ranking number 4, while Tesla is ranking number 6. These numbers here for the historical distribution range are adjusted due to the split. So that is 68 cents, which was last month, to $2.13. Of course, again, this is split adjusted, so back in the day, this was $1 and something cents for that highest distribution. So yeah, 68 cents is the lowest amount we've been paid, and that was last month based on the IV today. Or not necessarily, I guess, whenever I pasted this yesterday or today, it was 59 cents. And then the average between the two is 64 cents. If we can move on to the last one, Zomo, we're at 1.15 million outstanding shares, which is a 21% increase. Exxon is down 1%, while Zomo is down 2%. And Exxon is ranking 5 and Zomo is ranking 7. Now, I do know that they reported earnings on Friday, so their stock was down due to that. But that was pre-earnings, so this should already reflect that being down amount, because they were, I think, up. Sorry, my throat was burning. So historical distributions here between 20 and 41 cents, last month being 26 cents. Based on current implied volatility, the estimate is 34 cents, and the average between the two is 30 cents. So now if we go look at the other part of what we usually look at weekly here, and we won't look at this, well, we'll talk about it at the end. But yeah, right now I have this ranking 1 to 19. But let me do this first, because in case you're looking for one specific one, so you can see here, we've already really shown the open current. We've really shown all of this. It's just this is a way to be able to see them easier up against each other. So if you do a screenshot of that if you want or whatever, but I'm going to sort these back by ranking just so we can compare them against each other. And then just at the top of here, we do have the, where it fell for the S&P and the NASDAQ 100 during this same period as well, if you're wanting to compare them to the S&P and the NASDAQ 100 there. But you can see it looks like we have 4 here that were actually in the green so far, while the rest of them you see are negative numbers. And I guess I didn't, but I thought I had made these for the numbers to be red. But anyway, you can see, of course, the ones with the biggest losers down here at the bottom, that these right here, the biggest losers, the YieldMax ETF did better because, yeah, they're just probably going to do better. I don't know, in case any of you are actually listening to me. Well, I'd already did all those, so let's just do the rankings, I guess, because I don't want to read you all the percentages, because I've already told you the percentages, and I've told you rankings, but those are harder to tell when you don't remember everybody's ranking in order. So as far as the YieldMax ETF rankings for the month, we have GUI at number 1, Murni number 2, PayPay number 3, Tesla 4, Apple 5, AMZ 6, Zomo 7, Squee 8, MSFO 9, NVD 10, Dizzo 11, Coney 12, JPMO 13, OARC 14, Nefli 15, AIYY 16, AMD 17, Phoebe 18, and Misty 19. And then if we want to look at strictly the underlying here, well, first I'm going to do it like this in alphabetical order in case anybody wants to do a screenshot or be able to look at something real quick. But I'm going to do this by ranking now. So we can see the only ones that were green were Alphabet, Moderna, and PayPal. And those are the rankings 1 through 3. So actually, Alphabet was number 1, Moderna number 2, PayPal number 3, Apple 4, Exxon 5, Tesla 6, Amazon 7, JP Morgan 8, NVIDIA 9, Microsoft 10, Disney 11, Block 12, ARC 13, Coin 14, Netflix 15, AI 16, AMD 17, Meta 18, and MicroStrategy 19. And then, of course, you can see these that are green, the underline that's green, meaning those did better than the ETFs and so forth. But anyway, this is just so you can, sort of rank them against each other on which ones did better as far as your underlying and YieldMax ETFs. And then, of course, here in the middle, this just tells us which ones did better in this column. Was it the underlying or was it the YieldMax? And then now that I have this sorted differently, you can see the middle different. So right now we have these sorted by the rankings of the underlying. So when we do that, we can see How many is this? You're not giving me a count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. Yeah. So for the underlying, as far as the 10 worst underlying, the YieldMax ETFs did better. Then up and above, it's a little mixed, but yeah, you can see that a little better there. But overall, 13 of the YieldMax ETFs did better than the underlying. So therefore, it means 6 of the underlying did better than the YieldMax ETFs. But you can also see that we were down almost a percentage there for the month. So it makes sense because those that are going down, the ETFs tend to do better. And if you haven't seen that, I did do a video that just went through and showed, like for the past few months, looking at that data to see and just to get an idea of how things performed. But that video is out there, and I don't know, it might be in the other video folder. I'm not really sure, and it may not be in a folder. I don't know why it's so complicated to make folders on YouTube, but every time I turn around, I'm trying to figure out how to make a folder again. But anyway, that is it there. What I'll do this week, because I know a lot of you like to follow it, what happens every day leading up to it, as far as the IV changing, the outstanding shares changing, the stock price changing, and so forth. So we'll do that, but we won't go through this tab again. And over here, we already pretty much went through, a lot of this data. So we'll really just be looking at the main change here. We have I'm trying to think, because I don't have a way to see the outstanding shares here unless I pull up on my, if I remember, I'll pull up the outstanding shares on my computer or something so I can tell you the difference or what changed, so I can see both of them at the same time. Because really, that's the biggest changes we're looking for. We'd be looking for outstanding shares change, the stock price change for the day, and the implied volatility changes. Because here, our distribution, the historical distribution isn't going to change. Last month's won't change. Your premium short calls and stuff will change, but, at least based on last month, that data wasn't good enough, or that data, wasn't great for trying to figure out the distribution amount, right? So that's why I didn't even read over it, but it's still here for those that's just looking for that weekly update of that data. It's still here for you to see. So like I said, our big 3 changes is the outstanding shares, the stock price change, and our implied volatility. And I will not go through and explain again like I did at the beginning. For anybody that would be, new coming in on a different day, they'll have to come back and watch this video to get that. And I try to do that with these. When I do it, I do the initial so people can go back and watch the initial, and then I just do the daily updates as we go. And then if I change something, then I'll tell you on that next video, because these all these workbooks are fairly new, and as more information comes out or we think about things, then things get changed. So I always update you on the changes after the initial on those workbooks. But anyway, hopefully y'all enjoyed this video. I know for you, most of you that already know all of this, I know it's a little drawn out for you, especially at the beginning, trying to explain everything for the new people that haven't seen this before, and explain all of those changes. But if you have made it this far, I greatly appreciate it. Appreciate you. And hopefully y'all have a great week. Thank y'all, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.